Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video I'm going to be talking about Northern Goshawks and the fact that there appears to be a new species of goshawk. It's not quite what you think, but this is kind of an interesting topic. But before I jump into it, if you're not familiar with falconry, what on earth is a goshawk? Well, we're talking about Northern Goshawks. Northern Goshawks up until now are a circumpolar species, which means if you look at a globe and you turn it this way and you look at the northern part of the northern hemisphere, that's where you find Northern Goshawks, hence the name. Goshawks are incredible hunters. They have a long, rich history in the sport of falconry in many regions of the world, and they're highly effective because you can hunt and hunt and hunt all day there. They seem to never run out of steam. They have energy to hunt all day, and you can hunt both avian quarry like pheasants, quail, and partridge and ducks, but you can also hunt things like rabbits and squirrels. So you have a diverse prey range and a high success rate if you're trying to get food. That's why they've been popular since ancient times. Now, I live in the United States. I live in the state of Utah. We have Northern Goshawks here. Our Northern Goshawks are smaller than the Old World Goshawks. They have blood red eyes the older they get. The barring on their chest is very subtle. Very, very faint, very slight lines that if you kind of back up from them, those little bars can almost even look just like they have a weird mottled gray chest. But it is stripes that are very specific. They're fun to train. They can be quite a handful if they're not trained right, but that's the goshawk I grew up with flying. Now, the Old World Goshawks, there's many different subspecies, but the Old World Northern Goshawk, typically, no matter which subspecies you're talking about, it's typically larger than the North American Goshawk. The bars on the chest are much thicker, and the eyes do not turn blood red with age, but turn more of an orange color. Now, again, there are many different subspecies of these Old World Goshawks, and including some in Siberia that are almost pure white, which are quite striking and have become very popular for obvious reasons. It's a gorgeous bird, but a goshawk is a goshawk. So this video, though, is addressing kind of some new news that's coming out. Apparently, scientists that go over Linnaean taxonomy and separate what is a species, what is a subspecies, and have met and decided, or in the process of making it official, that the Old World Northern Goshawk and the New World, so Canada, United States, and even a bit into Mexico, Northern Goshawk are separate species. Now, they're basing this off of genetics. There are genetic differences enough to say, no, they're not just different subspecies, but they're different species. And also, they've touted very different vocalizations. Now, this is kind of interesting. They are very different birds. We, as humans, like to look at the natural world and have numbers and lists. We kind of put a grid, imaginary grid over nature and try to understand it in parameters. But nature is fluid. It's always changing. So even though as humans we're going to make this classification, how does it affect us in falconry? Well, we already viewed them as different subspecies. My favorite to fly has come to be the Finnish goshawk. They're the largest, but more importantly, they seem to be the most mellow of all the goshawks I've trained. But that doesn't affect anything like that. One of the main differences will probably be with permitting. Now, in the United States, the laws that govern what we can and can't do when it comes to falconry is the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, of which the Northern Goshawk is part of, which requires federal permits then, typically to work with birds. This may make things different with the Old World Goshawks. I live in Utah where we have very strict state laws, but this may mean in some states you might not technically be required to have any permit to possess an Old World Goshawk. Now, be sure to always understand the laws of your region. So it's just because they separate these as two separate species, North American Northern Goshawk and the, Old World, Eurasian, whatever, Northern Goshawk, doesn't mean that automatically will change verbiage instantly in the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. But it's still something we need to watch. I am going to be doing some digging to find out how that'll work. I do wildlife education in addition to falconry. So what this may mean is that a permit in my area to do educational programs with an old world goshawk may only require a state permit and no longer require a federal permit. Same thing, raptor propagation. This may mean that you wouldn't necessarily need to have a federal propagation permit to breed old world goshawks. You might just need a state permit if your state requires it. So this will be interesting. Again, always know the laws in your area, local, city, township, county, state, federal, because these laws can be very strict and have harsh penalties for doing things wrong or illegally. But this may have some interesting ramifications in how we practice falconry coming up in the coming years. When I find out more information, I will do a video about it as far as how this will impact the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. But until then, I thought it was exciting news to consider that technically, and it's interesting to watch birders occasionally, very rarely, old world goshawks might make it to like Alaska. And so I've noticed a lot of birders online posting, this could be so exciting. If I see these instead of just one species now on my list for the year, I can count it as 2 different goshawks I've seen. And it's a very different approach where it's just the arbitrary classification of humankind that we overlay that is something the birds aren't thinking of themselves, but still very interesting. So again, goshawks, I can't speak highly enough about them. They are a high maintenance raptor, but if you know what you're doing, I always recommend flying a goshawk and giving it a try. And I never thought I'd say this, but given the choice between the two, I have become a convert to the old world goshawks and do prefer Finnish goshawk above all other goshawks for flight. So anyways, interesting updates. Thought I would share it, pass it on. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have comments or questions or suggestions for videos down below. And as always, happy hawking.